Matt, amazing job on this show. I absolutely love the Chicago Party. It is so much.
Oh, man, that's great.
Dude, it is so much fun, but it has a ton of heart. That's the one thing. Diane has a ton of heart in this show. But the first question I have for you is, how familiar were you with Chris's Chicago Party Ant parody Twitter account before entering the show?
I was familiar with it, and I've known a lot of that. To be honest, I was like the masses. There was a good chunk of time there where I figured it was somebody I probably knew, but I didn't know who it was.
Right.
But I was a fan of the Twitter feed, and then I think I probably knew who it was pretty early on. Chris and I have been friends for a long time. My background and knowing a lot of the people that I ended up working with on the show was the Second City in Chicago and our affiliation with that theater and that city back there. The Barinholtz brothers I've known for years. Ike and I came up at the same time in Chicago in the comedy scene. I met Dave Stassen through Ike. So Katie Rich and I have known each other for years and years. My wife, actually, then girlfriend, introduced me to her back in the late 90s. So I had been familiar with the Twitter feed when they came to me. And then, it was kind of a no-brainer when a group of people that you're already friends with. That's the dream, right? Is when you have an opportunity. That was what I was always saying in the writer's room was when you were, taking classes at Second City, the goal was that, maybe someday, we'll be sitting in a writer's room in California together, working on a show that we sold. And when it happens, you're like, it's mind boggling. It blows you away. And so that was what happened on this was being familiar with the Twitter feed and then it being like, of course this would translate. How is it going to translate? And then the rest of it was just kind of like day to day leaning into it and letting it come out on its own, own accord.
Right. It must be like a real pinch yourself moment in those kind of scenarios. Now, can you talk to me about the challenges of adapting a parody Twitter account into a full-on Netflix animated show?
Well, I think you hit it on the head with the idea that it really, I think the main goal that a lot of us had was to make sure that the show had merits aside from what we already loved about her. Right. There was a no-brainer kind of a moment that the show would be funny. I think we all knew like, the zingers are going to be there. But the goal was like, how do you get people to stick around? And that's always really good storytelling and really good characters that connect and resonate with the audience that's watching, that is reflective, which I think comes inherently with what we learned and studied at the City. The Second City Theater is that is basing relationship-based humor, connect with the audiences. Now, Second City, for the most part, you're just looking at the United States. But when I performed there, your audience would be made up of 10 to 15 people from all 50. I know there's 50 states, from all 50 states. Sure. So the idea was that you wanted it to be something that could resonate equally, regardless of where you were. And so I think we did a good job on that level of having the opportunity of creating, aside from that, a woman who has a lot to learn, of growth. We built that world out. We gave her sister and Daniel so that we kind of created this triangulation of these people who care and love about each other. And at the end of the day, I actually think that that's what carried the show was this like strong storytelling and that you do care, that you resonate with and we all have this person in our lives. And that's the part that didn't resonate. We all felt it when you'd read the Twitter feed, you're like, I have this aunt or uncle too. And we all think of those aunts and uncles in that regard of like, oh yeah, they tried to teach me how to make apple cider, by putting it behind your radiator, you could get drunk when I was 16. That's a true story. So there's a side note of like what they do that made them your party aunt or uncle. But the part that we never talk about or isn't on the Twitter feed is you love that person. Like those people mean a lot to us. We think of them when we talk about them. We're like, they took me to a Grateful Dead show when I was 12, or they had me do nitrous when I was 9 years old. But you don't talk about the fact that they're the ones you call when you're drunk and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. My mom's going to kill me. So there's the other side of the coin to these people. And I think that's the side that we really kind of managed to swing full tilt into the show, is to make sure that it's a person you care about.
That's what hits perfectly. And I think that's why I found so relatable to the show. Look, I'm an LA guy. I'm not even from Chicago, but I think there's elements there that you attach to. Like, I love Chicago, but there's definitely elements there where you're like, oh, I know this person. Like, I've seen this at weddings or at a party or whatever it may be. But the heart is there, which I actually think, and you talked about Second City, which is a great place. Another alum, Lauren Ash, did such an amazing job with the role of Diane. She really brings the heart to that character. But what were some of the intangibles that she brought to the role that wasn't necessarily on the page?
Well, it really was. I mean, like, I think we all were trying very hard to create that feel, but it requires a certain, and especially in Lauren Ash, I can't not speak highly enough about, because vocal acting is really, really difficult, because it all is the voice, right? And she has such a vulnerability in her voice. And, you know, the joke that we always made was that she would have this like kind of a crack or, you know, a kind of a squeak in her voice that just so genuine and so heartfelt. And a lot of what she brought was, you know, there were times that we like were leaning on it more and more as we were recording, where she did it just naturally. And then as we heard it, we would like try and push her towards that a little bit more. And her and Rory, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk or interview Rory, but boy, oh boy, and Jill Talley, we were so fortunate with our voice cast. But for a show like this to really kind of sing and resonate, you need a cast that can emotionally carry it. And truthfully, we knew we were onto something when you would just hear the radio playback and you would be like, oh, just the words alone are resonating. It could work as a podcast. And once you know that, then the animation can truly become like the icing on the cake. But Lauren brought an ebullience and an energy to this character that I think I just can't imagine it any other way at this point.
Yeah, I'm happy that you mentioned Rory as well, Rory O'Malley, because he's amazing as Daniel. And that relationship is key to everything. Because yes, it's raunchy and yes, it's crazy, but there's definitely a lot of heart there. Now, stay positive, but test negative. If life gives you lemons, turn that shit into Mike's Hard Lemonade. What are some of your favorite Diane quotes from the series?
Oh man, I don't know how PC is this particular interview. There's a phrase in one of them where she says that she wants to do a little hobnobbing and a little knob slobbing, which I love. Boy, oh boy.
That's a great one. The tits.
That's one that gets me. Tits up, tits out is one that, you know, that's the funny thing about that is that came in early. Obviously, it's been around with the feed too, but that was the thing too that allowed us in the writer's room to have moments that we were like, you'd get frustrated and all of us would be like, tits up, tits out. What are you going to do? Like very much that a lot of her philosophies can be translated into like the day-to-day grind of trying to create a show. And a lot of it is like, what would Diane do? Like a lot of it is like, let it roll off your back. It'll be okay. Let's go have drinks and we'll think about it tomorrow. We'll figure this out. But yeah, my goodness, she's a hell of a character. And the joke we always made was like, we could make 30 different shirts with different slogans. So we got to narrow it down.
Sell them all out. Now, the other question I have for you is, look, the setting of this show is obviously Chicago. What famous Chicagoan would you like to see come on this show?
Man, we did okay. We got a handful of people that came in some capacity. Boy, oh boy. We brought a lot of people in.
I've heard some great answers. I've heard Barack Obama. I've heard Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah would be really good. Yeah. I mean, man, I don't think we even thought we could get her. Rahm Emanuel would be fun.
I once Tony Kukoc.
Yes. Well, I mean, like that's where my brain immediately went was, like Jordan, I would love to get Michael Jordan, but I guess my brain is thinking like, who could we get? But if my dream would be, Jordan, Pippen, a handful of different people, and my goodness, there's so many people in Chicago. It'd be, and depending on how we're treating them, maybe Mayor Daley. I don't know. Some of the other people that.
You know what? Another one that I'd like. I would love to see CM Punk on the show.
Yeah.
I think he'd be great, mainly because he's a straight edge guy, and I would love to see his interaction with Diane. I think it would be comedy gold.
Yes. So well, let's knock on wood. Hopefully we can keep this going. We can make all this happen.
Absolutely. Now, this show is absolutely hilarious. But like I said before, it has a ton of heart in the show. What are you hoping audiences take away with the Chicago Party Ant?
Well, I hope it's both. I hope it's a little bit, we knew the show was going to have some really funny moments. The hope is that people stick around for the storytelling and where it's going to go and start to really care about the characters and see where they're going and root for them, root for their growth, root for, their relationships and the changes in their life, and that they make those right choices, just like any good television. So the hope is that it resonates with people in a way that makes them enjoy it, want to rewatch it, take something away, connect the dots between their own lives and what their own experiences are. And I do think, and that's the thing that I think I'm most proud of this show. And you nailed it when you said, like, it has a lot of heart, which I think when people come into what is considered adult animation or animation for adults, sure. That gets lost sometimes, because I think people get nervous and they think that it means that it just needs to be gratuitous, right. Or you're not living up to the definition of it. But I don't. The goal on this particular show was you wanted to have that same quality of, like, almost the joke of, like, the Jerry Springer moral, of, like, by the end, you want people to feel like, oh, I get it, And it's true of any good sitcom that there's a little bit of that, like, something that resonates, that sticks with you. The jokes will, I think, for sure be around on T-shirts and the like. But the idea is that maybe 2 or 3 years later, people would be like, that was a really interesting way to kind of look into that topic and the way they handled it. And so that's the hope, right? Is that, like, there's some takeaway here that allows us to kind of internalize generational differences and how it affects society at large.
Absolutely. And I love the relationship with Diane and Gideon, played by RuPaul. Yeah. Amazing. But
yes.
Matt, the show is phenomenal. I can't wait for everyone to see it. I hope we're doing this again for the second 8 that are going to be coming out, because I love this show. It's amazing.
Oh, Joe, you made my day, buddy. This is great. And especially an LA guy. Yeah. I love it. I love that you love it. And
absolutely. So relatable.
Spread the word, man. Put it on your Twitter feed.
100%. You know it's coming out, Matt. But thank you so much for your time. I can't wait.
Absolutely.